Hello, Internet people. Let's write some Haskell. And in particular today, I want to look at RWS, or the reader-writer state monad stack, monad stack, I think. So I have some code already, and it's running fine. I just want to refactor it to use the RWS stack. I'm using a little bit of state, but not very much. But I'm not using the reader or the writer. And pretty much everything I'm doing is happening under IO. I don't think that's necessary. So taking a look at the code here, the way this program is structured, it loads the initial state of the program from a file. This is primarily going to a file and pulling out a list of names and then index into that list of names. But it's also doing a little bit more. It's creating the seed that's used with a random number generator. I think that's all it does. So it reads the file in, it creates the seed, and it returns this state for me. This is not actually all state. Things like the file name that we're using, I've hard-coded here, and the seed, these are not things that are state. They're not things that change as the program runs. So I want to pull those out and put them into config and use config just to store stuff that does not change. Once we've loaded the state, then we take this list of available commands. They basically match like a command you type in the command line, and then they map it to some action. So what run commands does is it parses the command line and works out what you've typed in and then runs that corresponding action. Either on its own, in case of something like list, or with the additional command line arguments in the case of something like add or remove. And then recently I changed it so that the actions will return the updated state. So the type of an action now, we can go and have a look actually, but its type is takes an initial state and it returns a new state, and it runs under IO. And it might do stuff, so it might print stuff out here. Previously, it was also storing the state in a file, but last week I refactored it and moved this out so that saving the state happens at the end of the program here. I kind of want to get rid of the running under IO part. And what I'm thinking of doing is using the writer just to spit out some content that's going to be printed at the end. I think this is a bit unusual. I think writers are normally used for things like logging or auxiliary output. But I'm going to use it as a primary output from this program, I think. So the new structure would be something like load config, load initial state, run the command. Probably some kind of, I'll just separately so don't break the program. Where's the Haskell? So we do something like load config, or parse config, or whatever. Got the type. Then maybe load state, and then some kind of run. We'll go with that later. Give you back like this RWS stack, so we can pass it into something which maybe does print results. So if we output something into a writer, we'll print that out, and then we'll save the updated state. Or maybe sort those around, I'm not sure. But that's the kind of idea. So what it really means, I think, in practice is going into the actions and rewriting them to use some kind of new type. I define this type action. It's a shame I want to borrow that name. I want to reuse the name. Let's call it action prime because we can't think of better names. So this is going to be an RWS. And I don't think I'm going to return anything else. Okay, so it's not in scope. Can I pull it in? Yes. Let's grab that for a second. So the type of RWS is you need to give it a reader, the type of the reader. The reader, I'm going to set up as being config, so we'll call this auto config. I need to create that. The writer, so what I'm thinking of doing for the writer is, instead of printing out the names here, what I'd like to do is make the writer a list of items. So when you go to a list, it'll spit out, or it won't spit out, but it'll put into the writer a list of items, like all the items in the list, and highlight the current one, and then show current. What I think we'll do is put a single item into the output, into the writer, and we'll indicate that it's current as well. I think those are the only things that print stuff out at the minute. They are, add and remove, we might spit some stuff out as well. So I think what I want for this is a new data type called auto item, and give it a couple of constructors. So we might say current item, and then it's going to take a name, or other item. Maybe not the best name for that, but something that's not the current item, basically. So this then, for the writer, can take a list of auto items. And the state, we already have auto state. So I think that's what I need. I need to write config, so let me just go to the auto state file, and I'm going to split this up. Oh, I do already have auto config. Oh, that's handy. So I can then, in theory, just import that. Oops. Wrong thing. Yes, I can do that. Okay, so auto config, I'm going to beef this up a bit. I'm going to put the seed into there, and the interesting little file path in there, and not file name. Am I using this anywhere? I export it. No, I don't think I am. It's interesting. Okay, put seed into there, and the other thing I was going to put into there was, well, it was the file name, so I might leave this as file path, because that's probably more accurate anyway. Just going to remove seed from there. This is not new type anymore, so this is a data type because it's a record. And then down here, we'll get rid of seed from there. So that's going to cause some problems in other pieces of code. Okay, so things will break, but for now, we have our config, we have list of items which we're going to emit as we go, and then we have our state. Okay, let's look for the things that are breaking, first of all. Okay, so first of all, I can't pull seed out of there because that's not a thing anymore. And I can't pull seed out of the state anymore. Okay, so what calls maybe shuffle? Next calls maybe shuffle. Okay, I might start with next then and give it this new type. Or else we use action everywhere, so it's not really easy to rewrite it. So let me temporarily export action, or action prime. The reason I want to do that is so I can then go to the tests and write a test for next, but it's going to be based on this type. So we go to display HS. This is getting a bit long. I wonder if we can break this up. So we can say something like test add. Just do this. No, can't just do that, I don't think. Or can I? Doesn't seem like the kind of thing that would work. I'm doing that thing where I'm doing multiple changes at once. So I can't run the tests, presumably because this will not work. So I can't destructure like that. Let me just temporarily say we're not in a do block, are we? Okay, it's not where I want to end up, but it will at least get rid of that error. And then the other error here, not important there. And the final error, seed of S. And then again, we just put in, I'm going to put in 27 actually, so it's easier to search for later. The value 27. Okay, that should be all the errors. Now, this is in the spec. Okay, so we'll do that seed. Any more? Yes. Okay, this is slightly better. Back to the errors I wanted, I think. Okay, what's on scope S? Okay, let me undo that change because it's not the change I want right now. I'll put it back in a minute, but to fix it would be slightly misleading because I'd start passing S in as the state, but I don't really want the state in the end. So let's try running a test for next. I think what I can say is test next. I wonder if I can just write this as a describe. I can. I think I'm going to have to write hspec here, but it's probably okay with that. Don't know. And then it, oops, it returns the next item for the next person. And then we'll say our new stuff. So what I'll want to do is set up some initial state and config, and then run the action using under RWS, and then examine the state and the writer at the end of it, I think. So we could say something like let X maybe Now I think there's some kind of exec RWS. And that's what I want, because I think exec will run this for me. I don't care about the result of my function. I'm not going to turn any data there. But it should give me access to this RWS stack, so I should be able to get stuff out of it. I think I'm just going to double check that actually. Oops, import control.monad.rws and look at the type of exec RWS. So, it gives me like a tuple. That's cool, which is a state under writer. So it's going to take all of these arguments. It's going to take an initial config in my case, and an initial state, and it's going to return a tuple of the new state and the writer. So you can call this, we can just call this SW, why not? So exec RWS needs a type, so we can call this action prime. So action prime will be my RWS A, where A is the type we don't care about. Oh, okay, I need to fill in the A though. So here I have RWS reader, writer state, but I don't have return type, so return type is going to be nothing. So I'm going to do action prime. And it needs an initial reader, or initial state. So I could just say auto state. What's in auto state? I forget already. Auto config I want, don't I? So auto config was file path and seed. And it also wants initial state, so auto state. I can fill these in with some values in a minute. So we're going to run that. Except we're not going to do that. It needs to be. Now I'm guessing it's going to be next. So we should be able to import it from the actions. So we'll run this, giving it initial config and initial state, give us back a new state in the writer. And we can say something like W should equal, it should equal or should be? Should be. And then it's going to be a list of these items. So let me just export those as well. So it's going to be current item and then a name, so we'll make it say Peppy. And then we can tell it import auto config. Okay, getting closer. Import that. These are empty, so I'm just going to throw in a where clause here. So initial config is auto config, where file path is whatever, we don't actually care, and seed is 2, and initial state is whatever it is down here. I can just go and steal this. We'll get this file in later on. I forgot the word auto state. Okay. So these are not in scope. Oops. So add that. And I'll add that. Now, what's its problem here? We don't export seed from there, okay. Do we not? That's out for me. So we export everything from auto state and auto config. Oh wait, seed is not there. It should be auto config and then import seed from there. Okay, and then these two I can then replace with initial config. I will, and initial state. Okay, good. I'm down to just one error now. So type of next is currently set as auto state to IO auto state. It's the old type, but it wants wonderfully explicit type of control mana trans RWS lazy RWST auto config B auto state. Essentially means I need to go and fix the type of next. So I'm going to say this type, oops, is what do I call it? I call it action prime. Okay, now this no longer works. So we're not returning the right thing from it. We're not doing the right thing in here either. So what do we need from here? We need the state. So we can say S is get. Show current. I'm going to replace with using the writer. So you can say tell. Can we say current item? Of this, right. So we can say let's. Oh, how does show current work actually? Because presumably that's going to take state and then it grabs the current person from there. Okay, so we're going to split the current item, which is take the names of S, which you just grab from the state, and grab the index item. And then can we say pure bind? Find redundant. Why not nothing? Okay. So what's going on here? Everything is broken. Oh. Okay. So we're not taking any extra arguments, we're just executing everything underneath this monad, this monad stack, and then tell we can pull in from control monad RWS. Okay, so we're not doing the shuffling thing, that's problematic, but let's see if it just works in the simple case. No instance for show other item. Let's see. Things you just always derive. Deriving show. Deriving EQ. Good, it stopped complaining. Okay. So if I can I put test next in here? No. Can I put test next here? Ooh, that's horrible. Gone very wrong. There we go. Let's get rid of everything that came before. Okay. So if I run the tests, so running sneakily under here, it's rebuilding, and it did not like something. Okay. So I've now got errors because I'm trying to use it as an action and I've changed the type. It's going to be a bit painful to do one by one. I mean, maybe easiest thing to do is that for now, and we'll put them back in later. See how this goes. One example, one failure. Okay. Cool. So actually the test is wrong and the output is correct. So they expected it to be Buppy, but it got Beppy because we start off at Beppy or index 1, and then when we call next, it goes to the next item in the list, which it should be Buppy at that point. I think that's right. Is our lists index from 1 or from 0? So we say something like two. Okay, so actually we're pointing at Buppy. When we call next, it should be Bippy. Them's the rules. Oh no, whoa. Let's not do that. Okay, expected Bippy, but it got Buppy. Okay, so we're not advancing inside next. Oh yeah, I mean, we're not incrementing at all. So we can say something like, in fact, there's other things we can check in our spec. So W should be Bippy, but S should be initial state, but with the index modified or incremented in this case. Can I not write multiple assertions here? That's annoying. So it returns next person. Oh, maybe I could do that actually. Let me just try that. I think it's been underlined because that's where the last failure was. I thought it was an error. Okay. So if I go back to the action, I was hoping to run all of them, but it seems to be failing on the first one. I wanted to see all the failures. So I think what I want to do is say S prime is, how does maybe shuffle work? I lost maybe shuffle. Actually, is it even worth using anymore? Go into random. We've got this shuffle and maybe shuffle, which says index and names. And it's calling shuffle with the seed. Is that used anywhere? It's at 49. It's only used. It was only used inside the code for next. So I can just write that. I can just change it to say it happens under action prime. Can I do that? Okay, so it doesn't take any arguments. And now we can say, show the destructured things as they come out. So we could say, we don't need to modify the config, but it's auto config is our constructor, and seed equals S. This comes from ask. I think ask will get the thing out of the config. Maybe we can say ask seed. Find out later. And then we can say, okay, that's to get the config item. And then to get the state, we can say auto state. What's NS here? That's the instruction in names, isn't it? So I think it was something like S at that. And then we can say names NS. So you can also say IDX equals I and names is that. And we're going to get that from get. So that should now be compatible with the new structure using config and state joined together. So we go to config to grab the seed. We go to state to grab the current index and the current names. Then we're going to say so we can say if we are beyond the end of the list, then we shuffle the list, otherwise you just return the current state. So now we can say S prime let S prime is maybe shuffle. Oh no, maybe shuffle is now underneath this. This is kind of cool. So S prime is maybe shuffle, because that's going to return the new state. Is that what maybe shuffle is going to do? No, it's not. I mean, this doesn't seem right because no, maybe I'll get rid of this altogether and just go straight to shuffle. That takes a seed list of names and gives us back a list of names. And it's more like the interface I want. So we've got our state, and we can say s prime is equal to if the index of s is greater than or equal to the length of names. So I was length of the names of s, then let's be let. So if it's that, then we need to call shuffle, and that takes the seed. So that's seed of C. So C will now be ask. Can we say the seed of ask? Probably not. Let's do this. And it takes the names of S. Otherwise, it's just going to be S. Okay, hard to read. So we got our S prime, and then we're going to do this. Index S prime. Okay, otherwise it's not just S, it's S, but with IDX equals the successor of IDX of S. I don't think it's going to work, but let's run the test, see what happens. Happen with not compiling. Oh, we got cyclic import. Okay, that's okay because I'm not using maybe shuffle anymore. So this we can just get rid of. Correct actions. Any more errors? Yes. No more. Maybe shuffle. Any more errors? Fail not scope ask. Just add it. Any more errors? Yes. Okay. How does this work? Can you not do multi-line ifs? Is that an extension? There's no helper for Haskell language extensions. Is there a multi-line if? Multi-line if. There it is. If, then else. So it's just indentation. No, okay, nothing's happy here. So there's an error here. I don't see how that would be confused. No, it's not a bracketing thing. Is it this? Can I not do that inside there? That's the wrong place. Okay, what's going on here? Let me just try basic things. So if true, it's not a constructor. If true, then 1, else 4. Okay, so that's the correct error, I think. So there's something wrong here. It was just an indentation. Okay. Right, so the problem with shuffle. What does it want? Type of shuffle. Where is shuffle? That's the wrong shuffle. It should be r.shuffle. Couldn't match expected type auto state to auto state with actual type random.name. Okay. Actual split 3 arguments. Yep. Okay. So now can we pull in, oops. Pull in seed. Okay, it's not very pretty, but get state. We work out we need to shuffle. Or rather we shuffle if we do, otherwise just increment s, or increment the index, and then we grab the current item from it. Back to the spec. Will this pass? It does not. Is there a syntax error? Autostate does not export autostate seed. Oh, let's do this again. So I'm telling it to import seed. It's grabbing it from the wrong place. Place it doesn't live anymore. Lots of problems. Couldn't match expected type random name with actual type auto state. Okay, so shuffle just returns new names. Right, okay. So we can say something like names and names of S. Can't call it names because we have that already. New names is that. Okay, and then we can say let S prime is. Oh, this is annoying. Actually, you need to do two things here. So if we need to shuffle, then names is equal to that. So we need to actually return something like, let's put this back. S for IDX is 0 and names is equal to that. Otherwise, it's just going to be S with IDX to the successor of the IDX of S. I might write that as +1 because I think it's easier to read if I'm not passing it around as a function. Okay, any more errors? Apparently not. Let's see how we get on here. Still failing. Okay. So we expected the IDX to be 2, but it's 1. That's interesting. Oh yes. So we got the new state, but we're not saving it. Okay, so we get config here, we get the state, we potentially modify it, potentially shuffle it, then we save it, and then we spit out who the person is. Is that going to work now? Cool, it works. It feels like these should be split out, like there's too much going on in them, but we can have a look at that in a second. So we could also say, new test here, it shuffles at the end of the list. So, similar idea, but we're going to say initial config will say the same, but initial state, and we're going to set, oops, I'm going to set the index to 3, so now the last person. Shuffle with a seed of 2. I can't remember the order, but I did work it out down here somewhere. That's removed, add. Oh no, we only shuffled for a couple of people, didn't we? Oh, we got a test for shuffle. Okay, so this is apparently is the order it comes out in. Okay, so I'm going to shuffle when it's 3. So, looking at list, first person in the shuffle list is Buppy, and the index should be 0. Let's see if that works. It does not work. Oh, yes, of course, the whole list is shuffled. This feels bad. I'm just going to copy the list out of the test output, but the test output is, I believe, correct. Okay. A lot of work. Not convinced it was worth it, but we now have next running under this new action type. We can start to put these things back in again, I think. So we could have a test for add, I guess. This should be quite easy. Should never say that. Okay, so describe add, and once it do, it adds people to the list. Might just move these out into their own file. Their own files, their own functions. Oh, syntax error. That's why it's not helping me out. I was waiting for the language server to offer to put the types in. Okay. So we're going to call add, actually just put that back, and then it's going to click these so that it puts the types in for me. Right, the way add works is it takes a list of names. So Pleppy and Booty. Need to bracket that because currying add. I haven't changed the type of add yet. So W should be empty, I think, in this current version. And then we're going to update the state, but names should be names from initial state plus new names. Just grab that select. New names be Pleppy and Booty. Great names. Okay, so now we need to go to add and update its type. So it's going to go names to some kind of action. And these are the new names. Okay, alright, so long form, I think this is a shorter form of it, but we'll do it explicitly first. So we can say S is get, and then S, we can just say put. S names is names S plus new names. Something like that. If we go back to main and comment that one out, and hopefully it'll compile. And it worked. Oh, it's because I didn't run the test. Maybe we should run the test as well. So here, can I say test next and then test add? Cool. So add was easy to do. What's next? We done next. We done add show current. No. Do we have like a show? It's just this, isn't it? It's one of the states, I think. One of the actions. Yeah. Okay. Trouble doing that is I'll then have to go and update commands, which I don't want to do quite yet. Let's do, I can do remove and shuffle, I think, without thinking about anything. Let's go back to spec. Test remove. So test remove is spec. Probably set up a helper for this. Oops. So we describe, right. Describe remove, and then it removes people from the list. Okay. This was quite complicated actually last time I wrote tests for these. There were loads of cases. I'm just slowly replacing these. So Test remove, it adds people to the list. Excellent, well done. Test remove. So it ignores people not on the list, removes people late on the list. I guess I want to do all of these in turn. Let's start with the easy cases, the easy and obvious ones. Later in the list. So we're not going to have that. We're going to say remove Bippy. We're not going to print anything or put anything, but it should be names is, and then it's hard code the list, I guess. I hope no one ever changes them. Beppy and Puppy. Is it worth writing more tests first? Yeah, we know what the cases are, so let's put them in. So it removes people on the list. And this is Beppy. And we're going to say S here. So we are removing someone and decrementing the index. Get these as they go. Just put it on the list. It removes the current person. So we remove Bappy this time. And nothing should change. Well, the name should change, but the index doesn't change. I'll put this one in as well, might as well. So we can say this. So we're going to remove Betty S, Poppy S, Betty S will do, and then S should be initial config. No, it should be initial state. That was weird. Okay, the end of the list is the tricky case, but we don't have to rewrite this code, we just need to change the types. So we're going to remove Bippy and the initial state. We're going to modify so ID x equals 2, and then we're going to say that's what we should be left with. A lot of these tests, but it was quite complicated to get working, I think. So we're going to remove, oops, going to remove Beppy and Bippy. We're not going to modify this. Then we say we should be left with this list. And the last case, oops, that one, is removing multiple people, including the last person. So, grab this again, but now we're going to remove Bippy and Buppy, And initial state, we're going to set the index to 2. And then check this. Okay. So we now need to go and update remove to have the right type. Okay, it's going to be last minute to do, I think, today. So what do we do here? Do we need to call exec state? I don't think we do now. So remove 1, I think we can give a similar type to. And then I think we can just say map'em remove 1 ns. We cannot say that. Can you say that? No. Okay. So I'm thinking here, because we're doing it under action, we can say something like autoconfig seed equals s. No. That's coming in there, isn't it? Is ask then we delete the name. Which way don't destructure this? Since S, we could say autoconfig. That'll be something like s at autoconfig, not autoconfig, other state. Names equals names. IDX equals I. And here we can delete n from names. If that's less than I, equal to I, and then we shuffle with the seed. Okay, nothing. We don't do anything. That's a problem. Is it a problem? No, it's not a problem. That was the correct type because the type of action prime is RWS and then returning nothing. So here we put S, here we put S, and then there we put S. So ignoring the mapping for a second, if we remove 1, it wants the names, so we can just give it, for now, unsafely, we can get it ahead of NS. That would work. Okay. So can we, I don't understand then why map'em remove 1 over NS would not work. Oops, I missed that. So the error it's giving me here is E reduction, I don't really care about. So it couldn't match the type. Array of nothing. Ah, okay. Yeah, okay, so mapping is going to take this list of names and turn it into a list of whatever is returned for remove one, and remove one returns nothingness. It returns here, you can see it's returning an emptiness, the empty type. So we end up with an array of nothing, which is not the correct return type. So we want something that's like mapm, but doesn't preserve the result. It throws away the result. I mean, we could write this. Aha. Use underscore. Okay, cool. I really love it when I write the bad version and then the language server tells me the correct version to write, because I have no idea how this in the library works. Okay. So hopefully that'll work. Given a test, there are a lot of tests to run through. Where's that what you compile? Bad things happened. Oh yes, of course. So go back to main. We also cannot do that. Hopefully that's the only error. It worked. Cool. So because this is already running under using exec state, because we're running exec RWS here, it's slightly nicer. Like I don't have to put the exec state into here. This still looks very long actually, but it is, yeah, it's a small victory for the amount of work I've had to do so far. Right, so plan for next week is come back, finish shuffle, finish show current, one list. Yeah, because that's going to spit out quite a long output into the writer. But I'll do those next week and then look at changing the type of commands. And then I can come back to here and write out closer to what I want. Yeah, so the config is split out from the state, and then we just run everything, and then we use the writer and the output from the writer to decide what to print. Cool. So that's my plan for next time. But yeah, thank you for watching. Maybe see you next week.